Hey Top Gang, and welcome to the channel where we talk all sorts IT businesses, and today we will talk about outsource versus outstaff models and what IT business to start if you consider becoming IT entrepreneur. Today we will talk only about IT service-based businesses, so if you are looking to start IT product business, this episode might not be the best for you. On the other hand, if you're looking to start an IT service-based business, this is the episode for you, because today you will learn about different models of IT service businesses and what pros and cons are there for each one. To get started, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe and hit the notification bell to not miss our new episodes. And while we go through our comparison, if you have any questions in the meanwhile, make sure you throw them down in the comments. And if you're long enough with me, you know that I answer all of the questions in the comment section. Before we start, several years ago I've made this video where I talked about 4 major models of IT service businesses. I'll drop the link in the description below, but if you don't want to go and look this great episode, I can wrap it up for you. So basically I talked about 4 major models, and those were expertise-based model, one-client model, outstaffing, and sales and marketing model. And now, of course, there are tons of other models out there and a mix of different models as well, but I focused on this, and in this video we will refer a little bit to the content of that previous video. Can you actually see it? Let's mention the specifics of each model. For example, for expertise-based model, it's easier to launch and harder to scale, and the same for the outstaff model. It's easier to launch but harder to scale. For one client model, it's harder to launch but it's far easier to scale, and for sales and marketing, it's easier to grow but there are high risks involved, and all of them will be on you. Today we will mostly refer to expertise-based model and outstaff model, and we will also mention one client model, and we will not touch sales and marketing model because it's sort of non-traditional one. And let's talk about the first aspect, and that is launching and growing. Now, if you choose an outsourcing model, let's assume that you're focusing on the expertise-based model, meaning that you specialize in certain skill sets or in certain technology or in certain industry. For example, you want to be like QA agency or an agency that builds e-commerce websites from scratch, or the agency that is like even more specific and builds e-commerce websites on Shopify only. If you're being that specific about what you do and what value you can bring to your potential customers, typically it will be easier for you to find the right customers for you, because first, you know what you offer, and second, they know what they are looking for. So for example, if I need to build an e-commerce website on Shopify and I see the agency that does exactly that, I will turn to them. Say for example, even on Upwork, clients tend to hire not the freelancers with the most extensive tech stack, but those who have experience in this specific skill or technology or framework that they are looking for. For example, you might be an NLP engineer with an extensive stack and a bunch of projects behind your back, but if your potential client is interested specifically in NLTK or PyMorphy or sklearn or Pandas, they might not care about those projects and that brilliant experience of yours. So it will be easier for you to start, to launch, but it might be harder for you to grow, because you will be limited by the tech stack that you're providing and that you're marketing yourself for, and you will be limited by the industry, by the specifics, by whatever. So it will be easier for you to start and to find your first customers, but it will be harder for you to scale because you just cannot step outside of your tech stack or your industry. Besides, when hiring your team members, if you want to scale and if you found customers, you will have to look for team members who have specific experience, and that narrows down your search. And in the modern conditions, when the hiring process is monstrous in IT industry, that might take a while for you to find the right person, and it will complicate your recruiting process overall. Now let's assume that you want to start a do-it-all type of a body shop IT business. In this case, it will be harder for you to start because it will be harder for you to prove your expertise and your experience to your potential customers because, oh, I can do that and oh, I can do this. But if speaking about like practical experience, you might not have that solid proof of your experience. It might also be harder for you to grow because you will be throwing yourself in different direction and managing or working on different projects, and by spreading yourself thin, you won't be able to have the time enough to dedicate to each direction. Trust me, managing multiple projects from multiple industries with quite different tech stacks is a headache, and it's not really profitable in the long run. And yes, it's quite exhausting from the project management side of you and from the agency owner side as well. Also, the risks are also higher here because of you having to estimate the projects typically beforehand, and if you do it wrong or estimate it in the wrong way, all the risks will be on you, and that might eat up your profit. If we mentioned profit, please note that the communication part is unpaid, and when you work on multiple projects with multiple clients in multiple directions, there will be tons of communication involved. All of this unpaid time. Now, what about outstaffing model? If we talk about outstaffing model, the most convenient here will be a one client model. It means that you already have a client who's willing to hire at least one person full-time long-term from you, and you can start from there growing your team with that customer. Now, it might be harder for you to start here because when you're just starting out, nobody knows you, nobody trusts you enough to hire someone full-time long-term from you, and even if they know you as a professional, say you're a senior software engineer with years of experience in the industry, but your potential clients, even those who worked years with you as a professional, they don't know what to expect from you when you start a business, because sometimes great technical professionals are not the best entrepreneurs, so they don't know what to expect from you and whether your cooperation with them will be reliable enough. Say, how you deal with finance, how you will operate legally, whether you will be able to manage your staff, how long is your recruiting process. For example, if they will want to hire more and more people from you, how long will be your recruiting process? So they don't know a thing about you in this regard, and you will have to prove yourself here. But if you manage to secure that one first customer and sell someone full-time long-term to them, it will be easier for you to scale because you can add up more and more team members to that customer, thus growing your profit and your team as well. And then you find another client and you already have reference from that first client of yours, and you start the process from the scratch with that new client and grow the team with them. So in this model, it's harder to start but easier to scale. Now let's talk about the second aspect of running your business, be it outsourcing or outstaffing business, and that is managing your team and managing your business. Let's start with bad things first, and that is, let's talk about your finances. Now, in outsourcing model, it's really hard to predict your profit this month, especially if you don't have any long-term projects, and it's hard for you to calculate the profit you're making for your each team member in your team. One month you can have bigger profit, and in other months you can have none, unless you have steady flow of the new projects coming in, or unless you have a big long-term, several months in length project that you might work on, and in the meanwhile you can look for new projects for your team. So finance-wise, outsourcing model is questionable unless you find a reliable long-term project. Now let's switch on to the outstaffing model, and let's talk about finance aspect here. And oh, I haven't mentioned one advantage for the outsourcing model in finance regard, and that is your team member can work on multiple projects, on 2 to 3 projects if you manage their time well. So this is a definite pro. So if your team member can work simultaneously on different projects, you can double your profit from them. On the other hand, that is Not so in outstaffing model. In outstaffing model, you'll sell that person full-time, long-term to your long-term customer, meaning that this person is working full-time for them, and in most cases, you cannot really give them more workload than bespoken with the customer. Most customers will object to you throwing more projects to that person, which means that you can only have stable monthly profit from that one person. You cannot double it, you cannot triple it, you cannot increase it, but it will be a steady profit from one person per month. So you can actually calculate how much you will be making per month, per quarter, per year. And in order to grow your profit from an outstaffing business, you just have to hire more and more people, which can work both ways, but as is. So in case of outsourcing business, you can just take more projects and rearrange the time that your team members work, but in this case, you will have to hire new people. Now let's talk about operations. So just like I've written here, prepare to be a babysitter for your team members, because in outsourcing business, it's all about milestones, it's all about deadlines, and it's all about you managing, or your project manager, managing your team members and making sure that all goes smoothly and all goes according to the plan. So it means you are 100% involved in the process, communicating with the customers, negotiating the terms. When things go wrong, you have to smooth down the issues that arise between your developers, say, and the customer. Sometimes there are misunderstandings and you have to figure that out. So congrats, you are 100% involved in all of your projects. It might be pretty exhausting. And to add up on the pressure on you, you will have to be on the constant lookout for new projects, so that when this project is coming to the end, suddenly or on time, it doesn't really matter, but you have to find a substitute project for your team members so that they don't run away, or so that you don't have to keep them on bench. On the other hand, outstaffing business here is fully autonomous, meaning that you don't really have to manage a lot. You will actually have to check in from time to time to see how communication goes, to see whether everybody is happy, whether your developers are happy, whether the client is happy, and that's it. This type of model in this regard is fully autonomous and doesn't require for you to be babysitting your developers, because all the development and all the project management is done on the customer's side in most cases. Of course, there are exceptions when you sell the entire team for the customer, but again, the project manager will be speaking all the terms and all the details with the customer directly. So again, it doesn't really require from you to be that much involved in the project. And let's compare other two important aspects in IT service-based businesses in both outsourcing and outstaffing model, and that is sales and recruiting. Because in IT service-based business, your team is your asset. You sell people. You don't sell services, actually. You sell people. And just like I've written here, in the outsourcing model, your main concern will be sales, and in outstaffing model, your main concern will be recruiting. Now, how come? In outsourcing IT business, sales is what you will be desperately looking for. New projects mean new streams of income. New projects mean work for your team. New projects mean increased profit. So what you will be looking for is new projects and new clients all the time. So if you run an outsourcing business, prepare to do a lot of sales work. On the other hand, in outstaffing business, it's recruiting that will matter the most for you, because you have a steady customer who just wants to add up more people, and you have to provide those people for them. So the recruiting will be your major concern. And let me tell you, it's the pressure all the same, and it's not easier than doing sales, for example. It might feel like less pressure because you already have a steady profit, a steady monthly income, but all the same, in modern conditions, it might be quite hard to find the required person. Not only you will have to find the specialist with the required tech stack, but it sometimes might involve some subjective requirements, for example, a person having to work PST time zone, or a person having to be able to speak German or whatever. So you will have to do constant recruiting, and that will be your major concern. Depending on what you do best, sales or recruiting, you might find the model that works best for you. And as to legal stuff, legally it doesn't really matter whether you run an outsourcing or outstaffing model. Maybe there are some differences in different countries and in their laws, but from what I know, it really doesn't matter tax-wise whether you start an outsourcing or outstaffing company. They are like even in this regard, so we won't be comparing this part. So let's wrap it up and talk about the potential of each model. So both outsourcing and outstaffing models have quite a potential in themselves, but in outsourcing model, prepare to do constant sales and you will be always hungry entrepreneur. In outstaffing model, you have a dangerous sense of safety, but it's also more scalable. We started as an outsourcing business and now we are transitioning to the outstaffing business because me being quite a busy lady, I just don't have the time to babysitting my developers and to make sure that everything goes smoothly. And when I had to do that, really, I felt so stressed out and it just doesn't really work for me. Like I can do that, I can do project management and I can do all of that stuff, but I just don't like it. I don't like babysitting. I just like to collect monthly profit. I hope this episode has been useful for you. If it was, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe and hit the notification bell to not miss our new episodes. Make sure you watch the playlist on how to grow your agency on Upwork right after this episode, and there are a bunch of other very useful playlists, so I do urge you to check them out. Also, I do run a coaching program on Patreon as of yet, so make sure to check those out. The link will be in the description below, so if you need some specific advice or if you have any questions related to starting your IT outsourcing or outstaffing business, make sure to ping me there. That said, have a great day of the week and stay safe. Bye.